Good afternoon, everybody. Christie here from Happy and Healthy TV, talking to you about day 4 of 100 Days of a Girl with Lyme documentary. So, yes, I look so sexy with oxygen stuck up my nose. Many of you guys know that I have pretty significant heart and lung issues resulting from Lyme disease. Part of it is from sarcoidosis, which attacked my lungs. The other part is from Lyme carditis. Yay me, I get to walk around looking silly. Somebody should totally and completely make these things look better with like pink sparkles on them or something. I don't know. To make it a little more decorative so it matches my outfit. I kind of have OCD when it comes to matching. Anyway, enough about me and my OCD with matching. What is our topic for today? I thought it would be a really great idea to express something that I've gotten a lot of questions on over the past few days. Thank you guys for sending me so many questions, patients that I have that I'm working with. I'm just so happy to be able to help. I'm going to talk about something very personal today, and then I think this is really important. So let's talk about the number one reason that people die from Lyme disease, okay? So we know Lyme disease can kill people. There's a tick that's out now that has a form of babesia that can kill you in like 48 hours. It has like a little orange butt on it. The end of it is like orange. It's a really freaky looking tick. You don't want to see that. But here's the problem, I think, and I want to open up a dialogue with this. So guys, please comment on this, if you can relate to this particular situation. Having Lyme disease is probably one of the loneliest diseases ever, and I don't want to take away from certainly anybody else that has a chronic illness or who's suffering or who's, God forbid, cancer or all these terrible things. But here's the deal. A lot of patients I just got a message about this 5 minutes ago, and I think I had several of them last night and saw almost 20 different, reports from people saying the same thing just last evening. This is not in my 5-year tenure of having Lyme disease. Feeling alone and not feeling validated by your doctor is probably the worst damn feeling under the sun, pardon my French, because you're sitting there trying to do the best you can to take care of yourself. And you have somebody turning around and telling you, this is a lot of patients with Lyme are referred to psychiatric care. And that's just the way our medical system works right now. Unfortunately, I hate to say that. Yes, there is neuropsychiatric Lyme, which unfortunately I have, and I'm working with that. When you have Lyme that passes the blood-brain barrier and gets up into the brain and starts doing all kinds of wacky things and attacking the brain, it's a huge issue. There was a movie on Netflix that I believe is still on. It's called Brain on Fire. And funny enough, one of my dear friends had sent this to me at the same time. A friend of mine who's a social worker had sent that over like within 5 minutes. And I tell you, I watched that movie and everybody thought this poor young lady was going crazy. And it turned out she had encephalitis, which is inflammation in the brain. Lyme meningitis, anything ending in itis is going to be inflammation. All right, so let's just put that out there. So if you got inflammation in the brain, you're obviously not going to be thinking correctly. It's going to affect your cognition. It's going to affect your decision-making skills. It's going to affect your behavior. And it could also cause suicidal thoughts, suicidal ideation, and things like that. I'm not embarrassed to admit, I'm very transparent with my battle with this disease. I have definitely been there. Definitely have been there. It's just the craziest thing under the sun to go through something like this. And again, you're going from doctor to doctor to doctor. And again, a lot of times people are just not validated. I was fortunate enough in the beginning of my Lyme journey back in 2013, well, really 2011 when I went up with Lyme carditis. I paid no attention to it, got treated. I don't speak about this often, but my daughter actually passed away from congenital Lyme disease back in 2011. She was born on July 24th, my little Christina P. And that was probably the worst thing when I read the autopsy report for her after she, we had gotten that back. And she had triploidy, so we knew that she was not going to survive. At the same time, the autopsy came back with congenital Lyme disease from the maternal gene. So it came from me. I don't blame myself. I know I did not kill my child. I have to put this out there. I'm not the only person, without a shadow of a doubt, who has lost a child to this. And to me, it's unspeakable, what has happened here. And again, I've had doctors not validate it, and I showed them the autopsy report, and like, oh, okay. So somebody knows that this is killing people. Somebody knows this is killing children. It's killing infants. It's killing babies. It's just, I have to pause a couple of times while I'm talking about this. You guys have to excuse me. It's been 7 years, and there's still not a day that goes by that I don't think about my daughter. It's really just a very difficult thing. But what I like to do at this point is try to help others. When I get depressed or upset, or I want to shoot myself in the face because every part of my body hurts and I don't know how to, how do I put this, deal with that. And this is coming from a person who had natural childbirth, not once but twice, and did not scream. I mean, I'm pretty tough. I've had Crohn's disease since I was like 9. So I always tell people I can handle these things. But when it comes to the emotional toll that this freaking disease takes out on you, it's very difficult. I spoke to somebody the other day, and we talked about living versus existing. So yeah, like, to me, existing is when I'm just stuck laying in my bed and I'm not able to do things. My whole body hurts. I have tremors. I wind up with seizures, syncopal episodes, with passing out. Sorry, speaking in PhD terms. It's very difficult to deal with this, and how do you deal with it? Missing family outings, losing friends, losing family. I think that's the biggest thing I've heard from people with Lyme. Over a period of time, while you have this particular illness with late stage and you're, trying to get it treated and things like that, unfortunately, I say this all the time, you really can't understand Lyme disease, in my opinion, unless you've walked a mile in somebody's shoes who has it. Because we all have different symptoms, but they do mirror each other. A lot of them are similar. And I think one of the biggest things to pay attention to is, again, number one reason people pass away from Lyme disease is not the disease itself, although plenty of people die from it too. It's certainly something that could kill you. But it's suicide. So again, you've got a lot of factors that are playing a role in that. You've got doctors that aren't listening to you. You have no validation from those doctors, and something is wrong. You may even have a positive test for Lyme, and you're showing this to your physician, and they're just like, yeah, we're not doing anything about that, because of the disagreement that I posted on my last video between the CDC and ILAD. So you have MDs that are following CDC guidelines. So a lot of times we Lymies are then ignored. You can have a positive test and then still be ignored. So how does that feel? I kind of think of it almost like, and no offense to anybody who has HIV or AIDS, please, I'm just using this as an example. Back in like 1982 or 1983, in the early 80s, they were not treating people with AIDS. They just ignored them. I mean, this is terrible. So people with AIDS have gone through this, I'm sure. And now, we call Lyme the AIDS of the 2000s. My friend Nurse Karen and I up in Massachusetts. It's so true, though. You have all of these practitioners more or less telling you, hey, there's nothing wrong. I have a stack of medical records that you wouldn't even believe. I mean, it's not even the size of a book. It's like, I don't know, it's like Moby Dick or something. It's just so huge. It looks like a Encyclopedia Britannica from back in the day, like all squished together into one thing. I've seen every specialist that ends in ology, neurology, psychiatry. Again, because if I have Lyme disease, I'm crazy. What other doctors do I see? Electrophysiology, cardiology, pulmonology, oncology, hepatology, hematology. Again, anything ending in ology. I've had plenty of tests that showed, oh yeah, you have epilepsy, you're dysautonomic, you have POTS syndrome, you have this, you have that, but we don't know how to treat it, and we don't know what to do with you. So what the hell do you do then? You kind of scratch your head. I've left my doctor's offices so many times. To be honest with you, a lot of times I avoid doctor's appointments. I avoid tests. I don't want to be bothered with it. I was able, thank God, to get O2 at home, so I don't have to worry about having to pop into the hospital every time my oxygen saturation is in the shit box. We're talking low stats, like 79, low 80s. I checked my O2 this morning, it was like 82. So yeah, today's one of those days where I need to use O2 when I'm floating around, which is fine. But again, I would walk into a doctor's office, and I want to say about 80% of the time, because I don't want to be rude, or this is just been my experience. We don't know what to do with you. Back in 2015, I write about this in my upcoming book, The Lyme Disease Healing Plan. I went to Invita/Mayo Clinic in Arizona, so flew all the way from New York to Arizona in a wheelchair, having seizures with SVT runs. If you don't know what SVT is, it's sinus tachycardia. That was the craziest thing that I think I've ever done. Like, I'm so blessed that I was able to get out there. Shout out to my little brother Craig, love him, and the ton of people that donated money for me to get to this clinic. Go in and talk to this very prestigious doctor who was very privy to Lyme. And it was a 3.5 hour consult. Had my mother on the phone from New York, so this way somebody else would be able to help me if I forgot something. And when he went through my records, he's like, a gentleman looked at me, again, naturopath and also an MD, so a very intelligent person who worked for Mayo Clinic. It's like, you are terminally ill. Like, at the time, I was like 90 pounds soaking wet. I have gone as low as 70 pounds due to being in that Lyme wasting phase. And this gentleman told me, like, you're basically, you got like 6 months. This was a week before Christmas in 2015. I got treated in that clinic for about 2 or 3 days. And because of financial obligations and the way that things worked out, they wanted like over $100K for treatment. And, I'm very blessed. I have a lot of colleagues, amazing people in my life who've raised a ton of money for me to be able to get out there. And again, family has helped out as well. But to hear that, hear that you're dying, like you cease to exist 6 months from now. Holy shit, let me tell you, that was a blow. I just sat there and it was like stoic. It was just emotionless. I'm like, really? Like, that's just not going to happen to me. But at the same time, I'm having seizures. The end of the story with that goes, I was getting treated, in that clinic, wound up having several seizures, and I almost got, like, deplaned. It was really bad. Like, my doctor would not allow me to get back on a plane because he was concerned about the altitude and me having SVT runs and having seizures. So I had to fly back to New York, went up with a layover in Philly. Our flight gets canceled. You got to be kidding me. So God bless the kindness of a perfect stranger. I won't give his name out. But wound up that he helped me with my bags. My little brother got me into a hotel because I was freaking out. Picture being in a damn wheelchair and you've got all of these bags because, I can't travel anywhere without 15 pairs of shoes. Miss Carrie Bradshaw, protege myself. And I remember my private practice was having our Christmas party, and I was guest of honor at the practice. Shout out to everybody at Long Island Integrated Medical, where I get to have the pleasure of working when I'm able to. Yeah, I remember one of my colleagues calls me up and he's like, where are you? I'm like, I'm stuck in Philadelphia. So it was pretty crazy. But that night in Philadelphia, I vowed to do something. I'll never forget this. Standing outside and I'm going to come back here one day and run up the Rocky Steps. Now, I'm in a wheelchair, but I'm like, I'm going to do this. Somehow or another, I'm going to beat this stupid terminal diagnosis, and I'm going to find a way to stay positive and not let this, forgive my language, fuck me up. It was just not something that I wanted to do. So, funny enough, we wound up coming back from Philadelphia. Everybody's trying to figure out, okay, where's Christie going? What's going to be going on? And how are we treating this? Again, very lucky. I've had Dr. David Gentile in my corner, Dr. Robert Malillo, and like a whole bunch of other really great people who helped me out along the way. And I am proud to say 2.5 years later, hey, guess what? I'm still sitting here. So was that doctor wrong? No. I fought like hell, and I can't even tell you, like hell. And anybody who's Lyme knows this, especially late decimated Lyme. You've got your good days, you've got your bad days. So I just had to come to a level of acceptance. Yes, I'm striving to get better. I will do anything I can. I'm a work in progress, as I always say. If I don't feel well, I will tell you I'm better than good, even if I feel like crap usually, because I like to put good energy out to the universe. And thanks to Dr. Malillo for that, because he is the person that taught me about the better than good. Anyway, the reason I tell this story is because, so I was diagnosed with a terminal illness. It was diagnosed with Lyme being terminal. This is going to kill you. You're losing more and more weight. I was just constantly having seizures. It was terrible. Proud to say now, I fortunately don't have seizures very often. It's few and far between. I used to have them every day. So you think about your life. My son was 6 at the time when 5.5 when I was diagnosed with Lyme, and when I was diagnosed with epilepsy, it was within that time frame, within 2013. My poor son has watched me have seizures. I have been what I call an inconsistent parent, unfortunately, because a lot of the time I'm not physically capable of taking care of my child. So, God bless, I have a lot of help. I have family, friends, and things like that. And my son is doing extremely well, thank goodness. But as a mother, for two reasons, I fight for my daughter and I fight for my son. My daughter no longer has a voice. She's dead. She's not coming back. And it took me a long time to accept that. So what do I do to help? I donate money to Lyme funds. I actually just started a private Facebook page called Peas Project. We nicknamed my daughter P because she was so tiny, and I'm a nutritionist, so sweet baby P kind of fit her. And I guess it was a self-fulfilling prophecy because she never got bigger. Yeah, I lost her when I was 6 months pregnant with her. What a freaking blow. Like I said, here I am being told, okay, you're going to die from this disease. My daughter's already dead because of it. We all talk about money for treatments. It's very frustrating being out on Social Security disability. Well, I'm thankful for the benefit that I get, which is pretty good considering I've worked my entire life. And all I want to do is go back to work and have a normal life. I think that's the hardest thing for somebody with Lyme disease, and I'm pretty sure that's why people kill themselves because of it. I'm positive of that, actually. You're living in a constant state of pain. You're not being validated by doctors. You maybe just up against a lot financially. Like I said, people lose their homes, their cars, their everything that they need that's important just to survive on a daily basis. And that to me is it's atrocious, and it needs to change. This is why I'm doing this documentary. It's very upsetting to me, and I know it's upsetting to the tons and tons of people I've talked to with Lyme. We all say the same thing. The majority of us are not validated at all again. And when you just go to a doctor over and over, I don't think you have this, blah, blah, I don't know why this is doing this to you. Yeah, I almost want to throw a book at half of my doctors. Like, have you read, the most current research on this? Like, you're not paying attention to current research. I think, from my opinion, if people with Lyme were treated with more dignity and respect, which anybody deserves, I don't care who you are, as long as you're a good person, you're doing the right thing, everybody deserves that courtesy in life. And we should all treat each other that way. However, I can tell you horror stories about arguments I've gotten into doctors. I can tell you horror stories I've heard from other patients who really just are struggling so bad. And listen, you have late stage Lyme. It's like plays tricks on you. And I'm sure everybody that is listening to this that has Lyme or has a loved one with it knows this. There are some days where I can get up and run around and I'm fine. There are other days where I have to sit in the house and use oxygen. I can't run around. It drives me crazy. I get what I call a Lyme headache a lot, which is just like a super crazy migraine. And other weird problems, like I said, cardiac issues, gastro issues, pulmonary issues, on and on and on. And once all these diagnoses start piling up on you, you just kind of have to take a step back and say, Jesus, what happened to me? What happened to my body? I made a comment to somebody the other night. Oh, man, would I love to go back to me in 2013? I was flying, which is why I joke around. I have my Supergirl tattoo. My tattoo says I'm a Supergirl and Supergirls fly. My cousin did this for me on my couch while I was sick as hell. We just had come home from the hospital. She actually snuck into the hospital to do a tattoo at one point because I was there for so long. Never had a tat. Never wanted one. People ask me what that means. I had to turn into what I call a superhero to beat the crap out of Lyme disease, literally. So I kind of put that in my head. I'm Supergirl. You can't get me. So I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing, and I'm going to stay alive. So I kind of joke a little bit about that, and that's why a lot of times you'll see on my Facebook page, people call me Supergirl now. So I think it's very cute. My cat's knocking things over. Anyway, so, so I mean, for me, inspiration has come from putting ink in my body, which I wouldn't recommend. Not good for you. As a nutritionist, I would normally not do that. But again, somebody told me I was going to die, so I figured I might as well go ahead and get tattoos now. I thought that was funny. But, laughter is a great thing to cope with having suicidal thoughts with Lyme. If you've got the suicide crisis hotline, I highly recommend, if you, God forbid, you feel like that, go ahead and call someone and talk to somebody before you do something stupid. This is coming from somebody who's done really stupid things. I have been at the point with my Lyme where I just wanted to shoot myself in the face, and that is not like me at all. I am so positive 99.9% of the time, but when you get kicked and kicked and kicked and kicked, or you're not being heard over and over again, and I call myself a ping pong ball. If one specialist sending me here, one sending me there, they're not speaking to each other. I have to field phone calls back and forth. And look, I'm in healthcare for, it's 12 years now. So my practice has been alive. And my baby practice, I call it, it's my baby. I know a lot of things that the average person may not know based on my training. So I think that plays a role in me being frustrated with physicians, because I'm used to having a patient, and if they come in, I'm writing a letter to the doctor. Hey, guess what? I'm working with so-and-so mutual patient. This is what we're doing. If you have any qualms with this or you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I always left the door open for practitioners to call me so I could discuss cases, because that's how we fix people. But unfortunately, many doctors don't have the time today. Insurance companies kind of rule the world when it comes to that, which is why I don't take insurance at my practice. Although we don't turn people away, we figure things out. Whatever the case is, I bring this up because it's very frustrating having to see so many different physicians, for all different health conditions. You just get to the point where you're just like, you got to be kidding me. And I can understand why people would go ahead and decide to kind of quote unquote opt out. But that's not a solution to this. And that's the main thing I have to get across today. Okay, maybe you're having a bad day today. Maybe you're having a bad month. Shit, I've had bad years in a row. I totally get that, where I was bed bound and just, like I said, 60 times, over 60 times. I stopped counting at 60. In 5 years, I've been hospitalized. And we're not just talking an ER visit. What if I'm in the hospital? I'm there for 2 weeks, a week, 2 weeks. I've been in the hospital sometimes for up to a month. It is completely crazy. And that's disheartening too, although I've come up with some really cool how do you survive the hospital tips. So that's definitely something we'll do another video on. So let me give you guys some resources. There are tons of support groups on Facebook, and I'm sure there are other support groups if you contact iLads, or if you just Google support groups in your area. The best thing you can do when you feel like that is to either, like I said, reach out to somebody, talk to anybody. You can call me, I don't care. I certainly don't want to see anybody be harmed from this disease. It's terrible. And especially harming themselves. You're already going through enough. It does get to the point where it's what is going on here? So I would recommend definitely suicide crisis hotline. Call a friend, get up sometimes if I feel like crap. I know this sounds crazy. Grey's Anatomy, this is something that came from Grey's. They get upset and they have dance parties. You'll see me at 3 o'clock in the morning when I can't sleep, I'm upset. I'll just get up and I'll start dancing or something like that. Try to get my mind off of the fact that I feel like crap. And this is times when I'm crawling around, I force myself to get up and do this. Physical activity of any kind is excellent for depression, or for, feel like you want to shoot yourself in the head, which is not funny, but I'm trying to be a little bit humorous while we're talking about a very delicate slash intimate slash difficult topic. The other thing that's been a saving grace for me is running. I get upset, I go for a run. If you can't do that right now, shoot, I was in a wheelchair at one point in time for quite a while. Started doing wheelchair basketball. Figured I couldn't work out my legs, might as well work out my arms. I had pretty big guns at that time. They're not too bad. Whatever the case is, that was a great coping mechanism for me. But I think the best thing, honestly, is to speak to somebody else with Lyme, because then you don't feel alone. And I think that's the best message I can convey to you today. If you have late-stage Lyme disease, you are not alone. And other people do understand what's going on. Just because your doctor may not get it, that's fine. They're just behind on research. That's all it is. Ignorance is first, ignorance is bliss. Can't speak. Ignorance is bliss. It's a true statement. At this point, if I go to a doctor and they're arguing with me, or they tell me, something is not the case that I know for sure is, I will just hand them research papers at this point. It's like, you know what? If you don't want to take my word for it, here's a research study that came out of Germany. Here's a research study that came out of Harvard. Here's a research study that's in the Lancet. PubMed. I mean, I'll bring in stuff like that. Again, I'm a practitioner, so I have access to a lot of things that the average person doesn't. Certainly, I'm happy to help you with that. If you need any help, let me know. Leave a comment in the box below. Yeah, it is a really huge problem. So that's very concerning to me. I do know of a really great suicide prevention program through an organization that I worked with for quite a while called Time to Play with Doreen Guma. She is very big on suicide prevention and doing classes for it and just different coping mechanisms you could use as opposed to overdosing or shooting yourself in the face or whatever way that you would look to do that. And I get it. Listen, the pain gets so bad with this disease. I've laid on my bathroom floor and prayed to God to either kill me or pick me up because I cannot carry myself anymore. I'm very fortunate. Somebody up there must have heard my prayers, or I keep staying positive. And, I've had such bad nights and days. And they are scary. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Like I always say, I don't sugarcoat things. It's something that's difficult. And it's not the easiest thing, but I can say this on a positive note. For me anyway, Lyme disease has been my teacher. I like to look at it that way, as opposed to being mad at it, as opposed to looking at it as an evil, terrible thing that's happened to me. Obviously, whether or not you're religious, I don't want to offend anybody, but I believe God has a plan for everybody, but I also believe in the law of attraction. You create your own destiny. So I just would sit there and convince myself while I'm sick, throwing up, having chest pain, tachycardic runs, lung pain, convince myself, I'm like, I'm fine. I'll be okay. Or I'll sing a stupid song when I'm stuck in the bathroom, which is hilarious. My Crohn's patients would understand this. I'm not going to sing the song for you, but I probably should because it's pretty funny. But laughter is another huge thing. Call someone funny that makes you laugh. If you have no one to call, certainly shoot me a message. I'm happy to send you silly videos. There are some nights, my cousins are awesome. I love them. We unfortunately separated. Pennsylvania, New York, Florida. Everybody's kind of floating around in different places these days. But Facebook's been cool because we have a little private group where pretty much like anytime we're up late, and I'm always up because I don't really sleep well, we just make up the stupidest things. Like the other day, my cousin Joey and I were making up slogans for t-shirts that were ridiculous. We watched silly videos. Things like that. My friend Amanda, she's adorable. She's another Limey. She sends me silly videos. I send her back silly videos. So I think laughing is great. We do know, too, just the act of smiling. So yay, sitting there smiling. That was a bad smile. It actually helps boost your serotonin levels. So that's something that's important to just kind of talk about. So I've told patients before, just stand there and smile. It might sound stupid, but it actually sets off endorphins in the brain, and it does help boosting serotonin. As far as supplements go, when it comes to boosting up serotonin or having you calm down, L-tryptophan is really good depending on your weight. Usually dosed with 1,000 milligrams of that. Branched chain amino acids are great, BCAA. That would be another great thing to help boost things up. Probiotics would also help with your serotonin levels. Eating a clean organic diet with no sugar or additives or anything like that can also help out quite significantly. And if you can, move. That is the biggest thing I can tell you. I'm fortunate enough that I've worked with dozens and dozens of chiropractors, PTs, OTs, just about every specialty you can think of. When it comes to that stuff, I refuse to not move. I'm not supposed to be running. I'm not supposed to be playing my flute. I'm I'm not going to exist. I'm going to live. Even if I can only do a quarter of the things I used to do before, which, believe me, I have a type A personality. Go, 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 go. Don't stop, get it, get it. It makes it even worse. I'm from New York, the land of where we work our asses off. Not to say that people don't in other places, but, if you know New Yorkers, we like the hustle and bustle. And, a lot of people don't necessarily gravitate to that. It's a tough lifestyle. Again, I'm just generalizing. I'm not saying everybody. I don't want to, offend anybody in any way, shape, or form. That is not my intention. Just making a point. Moving, anything you can do. When I was bedbound, we came up with some cool ideas for like physical therapy for myself. I would punch balloons, like helium balloons in my bed with my son, and we'd punch them back and forth so I could try to work out my arms a little bit, or at least keep them moving so my muscles didn't atrophy. That was funny. We would blow bubbles, and I would kick them with my feet. We had a bubble blowing machine, so I would lay in bed, and my son would have the bubble blowing machine going. I'd just start kicking them. Then I would do it back to him. So that was really good. And eventually I just got up and I started forcing myself to walk, then started running. Ran a couple of 5Ks last year, and did it in pretty good time. So the reason I bring that up, again, physical activity is very helpful for somebody that's going through this. If you're completely bedbound, there are still things you can do. Pelvic tilts, Pilates stuff in bed. Your body is going to feel better the more you move it, not only physically but mentally too. That's why exercise is recommended for people. I mean, I think it's crazy, unfortunately, in our country today that we're not doing that enough. But again, people are very busy. They're sitting at desks all day, have children, obligations, and things like that. So it does get tricky. But there's always at least incorporate 10 minutes or so a day, whatever you can do. And if you're like me and you're home with your Lyme disease and you're not out and about, like I normally am, I make a point definitely to do that. It's summertime. Swimming is a gentle exercise, so I certainly would recommend that. If you don't have really bad POTS, I would say, or dysautonomia, I would say to do like yoga and things like that, because that's helping strengthen the mind. It's strengthening the body. But my only concern with somebody with POTS is that, they may get up and try to do a downward dog and, pass out and have a syncopal episode. Let's avoid that. So, maybe some leg lifts, pelvic tilts, there's all kinds of things that you could do. I have free weights. I'll sit in my bed sometimes and just play with my free weights if I can't get up. It makes you feel better, so try moving around, talking to somebody, the suicide crisis hotline, go on to the internet and talk to someone else with Lyme disease. If you are really that bad, please send me a message, and you feel like you're just hopeless, you can't go on anymore. Remember also, that's your brain on Lyme. This is part of the disease. It screws up the way that you think, particularly if you have brain damage, which I certainly can attest to because I have myself. Yeah, I joke around my $1 million brain. Like, it kind of half works. It works well, but it just, not to the capacity it used to. But if I sat there and dwell on that, then it's just going to make things worse. Here's another thing. Law of Attraction. I have an app on my phone. It's called Law of Attraction, and it sends these great inspirational posts every day. And I go through those and I look at them, and I just kind of have that attitude of gratitude. I would teach my patients to do this too. Every morning when you get up, think of 5 things that you love about yourself. I love that. I do that frequently. But then also, what are you grateful for? I've had days where I was stuck in bed, so sick, having seizures, having tremors constantly, having my heart rate up in the 250s where I should have been in the hospital, but I refused to go. And I would get up in the morning and just look out my bedroom window, which is fortunately right next to my bed. I'd just be happy if the sun was out. I mean, if you're thinking of the gratitude list, 5 things you're thankful for every day, I would run down the silliest things. Well, it's not really silly, but if it was hard for me to come up with something good, well, thank God I woke up today. I'm still alive. All right, let me try to fight another day. Oh, look, the sun's out. Oh, look, there's a cute bird sitting on my air conditioner outside of my window. It's adorable. I have my son. Thank God. God bless for that. I have family that's amazing and friends that are equally as amazing. I'm very blessed. And colleagues too. So those are the 5 things I usually will run through my head every morning. Sometimes it's other stuff. Sometimes it's like, oh, you look adorable today. Like, oh, yay me, or whatever the case is. Another thing that's really great to cheer yourself up is to compliment at least 3 people a day. I'm very much into doing that. And my compliments are sincere. Oh, I love your outfit. I like your shoes. Oh, I like your haircut. Whatever the case is, something along the lines to that. Or from the grocery store on the days I feel well enough to go. Do you need help picking this out? Again, maybe that's me being a nutritionist and trying to help people with those things. But I think that that's really important. So, again, today's topic, talking about suicide and why somebody with Lyme would take their own life. It's very difficult to live this life. Let's just be honest here. But, again, I do think that if you don't let it get you down or screw you up, it does make you a lot stronger. So maybe focus on making lemonade out of your lemons, which is what I'm doing. Again, my daughter has no voice. I speak for her. Go to rallies. I have a private Facebook page for her and for any other mother who's had a child who died from congenital Lyme, which if your doctor tells you that's not true, bullshit. Dr. Horowitz and several other top guns have looked at research, and my daughter's autopsy proves it. So, again, so there's a lot of factors that go into us feeling the way that we feel, and that can be very frustrating. So, again, that attitude of gratitude. What do you love about yourself? I had somebody the other day where I asked them a question, what do you love about yourself? The person couldn't answer me. Nothing came out of their mouth. And this happens often. Like, really, you can't think of anything you love about yourself? Maybe I'm a little conceited. I could go on for a couple of pages if I wanted to. But having that confidence is really important. And also, like I said, things with the law of attraction. If you've not watched the movie The Secret, which, I think everybody under the sun should have watched this by now. Sorry, there's a fly going past me. Yeah, I think that would be very, very helpful for a lot of people, especially when you feel this way. Watching something funny, very stupid videos. I like prank videos and like silly things like that. So Saturday Night Live, Jimmy Kimmel. I'm just throwing names out there. There's a gentleman on YouTube called Ross Creations. Oh my God, he is so funny. He does the most ridiculous things. So we laugh at him all the time. Another great video is this guy, Sergio the Sexy Sax Man. Love Sergio the Sexy Sax Man. He runs into different places playing a sax. If you go ahead on YouTube and look up Sergio the Sexy Sax Man, you'll see what I'm talking about. Cousin Joey, awesome. He turned me on to him, and Cousin Jess. And I try to just joke around about that. Call someone. Call another person with Lyme disease. Call a suicide crisis hotline. If you're really that screwed up, go to the hospital and let somebody know. I certainly do not want to see anybody on my fan base kill themselves because of this. And again, I feel like I'm an authority to talk about this because I do have neuropsych Lyme. I do have psychiatric problems that arose from dealing with crap with Lyme, which I think a lot of us do. If you keep getting kicked and kicked and kicked and kicked down, sometimes you don't want to get back up again, and that is very hard. But you can do it. That is the message for today. You can do it. You can do anything that you put your mind to. Say there's no such word as can't. I don't even put that in my vocabulary. It's just not allowed. If somebody asks me, can you do this? Well, I'm struggling with I'm struggling with this a little bit, but let me go ahead. I don't even say try. It's the Oprah thing. Trying is failing with honor. I'm going to do the best I can. Tell everybody that all the time. I'm going to do my very best, and that's all that we can do as humans. Period, at the end of the day. You want to be extraordinary and do great things. That's awesome. But, sometimes it gets a little bit difficult to think like that when you're stuck in bed and you can't even get to the bathroom. Or I talked to somebody the other day that was like crawling back and forth into the shower. I get that. Been there, done that, bought the t-shirt, mug, and anything else souvenir-wise that goes with that. It's hard. It is not the easiest thing. But it can be treated. There are new treatments developing every day. There is hope out there. I think that's the message to convey for today. There are a lot of resources for people to check into. There are a lot of other people going through this. You are definitely not alone. So I'm hoping if you wind up clicking on this video at a time where you're just distraught and you don't know what to do with yourself, that you're hearing what I'm saying to you. I'm still alive 2.5 years after receiving a terminal diagnosis. I'm still alive after a lot of crap that's happened to me. Go down to 70 pounds and wind up with a J pouch, or have your doctor tell you you're in cardio/pulmonary failure. I choose to look at it from the perspective where I'm just not going to let it get to me. Does it? Of course. If I go to a doctor's appointment, sometimes I'll throw myself like a day-long pity party, which I don't normally do, and I don't want anybody to pity me, but you're allowed to feel that emotion. You're allowed to get upset over things, and I think that's also important. But when it comes to the point where you feel like you're going to take your own life, please look at the ramifications of that, because a cure for this disease could come out tomorrow. We don't know that. It could come out 10 minutes from now. I might get a really cool phone call from someone like, hey, guess what? We're going to do this, that, and the other thing, and you're all set. Good for you. Right? So don't give up.